Welcome back to The Question, Blog Talk Radio conversation with me, Doug Pagitt, and today joined by Steve Scherber. This is May 13th episode of the show, and we're joined today by Steve Scherber, the second half. And if you're watching on YouTube videos, this is part 5 of Wednesday, May 13th. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, feel free to give us a call, talk about the questions in your house, 646-929-1199, or if you're on Ustream, in the chat room, or on Blog Talk Radio chat room, let us know what you what questions you have. So Steve was just saying how you can repair, or you can fix the problem of ice dams by insulating the attic. Well, you know, you just this is what I mean. I don't know a lot about houses, and I've often wondered why attics basically have open space in them, like to the outside, like vents, like go outside. And the idea is that you want the attic to stay temperature balanced to outside.
Exactly. One clarification: it's not just insulating the attic; it's bypass seal as well. That's as important.
Oh, bypass seal.
Yeah. Air infiltration is one of the biggest contributors.
Isn't that the same as insulating the place?
Nope.
No.
A good analogy is to say insulation is about how thick your wall is. Air infiltration is the size of a hole. If you're in a boat, you don't really care. If you're in a boat with a hole in it, you don't care how thick the boat hull is. You care about how big the hole is.
So how do you determine how big the hole is in these people's air seal?
We use a piece of equipment called a blower door. And so basically what we're doing is we're putting this giant high-pressure fan on the front door, and we depressurize the house. So we suck all the air out of the house, and it drops the pressure in the house to a standard pressure. It's 50 pascals. It's sort of the measurement threshold. And then you measure the amount of air leaving the house through this fan. And that gives you the air leakage. And you can put
but do you see where that hole is? Like, how do you know?
So then what you use, once the house is depressurized, then what you're doing is you're using an infrared thermometer or camera to view and to take pictures of all the different areas of the house, and you see contrast between indoor and outdoor air temperature, and you'll see where the air is infiltrating. So for instance, if I depressurize a house and I go and I take pictures of all the wall cavities, what you'll see is warm air in the summertime, warm air, but in the winter it'll be cold air. Warm air being pulled down the stud cavities. Because wherever there's an interior wall, there's always a bypass through that top plate into the attic, and that isn't sealed. So we can see and pinpoint all the areas where air infiltration is happening from the attic.
Should have you come do that to my house sometime. Now,
we do that for $550, and we'll include that in the cost of any repair. It'll be given back to you if you go with us on the install.
Really? Is that true?
$19.95. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you do the insulating and fixing of that problem, then you say that's a freebie.
So basically, we come out, we do the diagnostics. We charge depending on the size of the house and the number of things we need to do, somewhere between $500 and $1,000.
I like the 500.
Right, and in most cases, it's about $500 to $700.
I still like the 500. Do you have a $300 to $500 range? Because I might like the $300 range.
No, we don't. But what we'll do then is we'll provide you with a report that shows what we found, and then it's going to list here are the things that you can do to your house. Here's what those things will cost, and here's the return you'll get if you do those.
Yeah.
And if you spend a certain amount of money with us, use us to do the repairs. Not only will we give you the cost of the diagnostics, but on the end of doing the repair, we'll come out and retest to certify and to show what we actually accomplished. So if your house leaks, 3,700 CFM, cubic feet per minute, and we come up and we seal bypass in your attic and insulate it, and then we come out and we do a little bit more air sealing around some doors or windows and some penetrations, and then we do a test again, and then we'll show, now it's at 2,000. So we actually verify what we did, and we just.
So how does a guy like me? Because we have a Ustream question here. I'll get to in a minute. But how does somebody know what would be an adequate amount, like what's worth having done? So, how do I know if you come in, you say, "Oh, you were at 3,700 CUIs or whatever," and now we dropped that down to 1970.
Well,
I mean, is that like?
No,
I could have put one of those things around my door on the bottom and dropped it down that. Like, how does one know what would be a reasonable?
Yeah. So the blower door the blower door score is really a measurement that is important when you see a before and after, because what you're looking for is a reduction. But if you're looking for an overall baseline score compared to other houses, that's a little bit more challenging because you're looking at square footage of wall and ceiling space.
Oh, I see.
So if I've got basically if you would take a house's surface area on the envelope and to put it into one big flat sheet of a wall,
Yeah.
one house that has a 20,000 square foot surface is going to have more leakage than a house that's got 10,000 square feet.
Oh, I see.
So they're not apples to apples.
But you would say we normally cut people's leakage rate. Or what'd you call it?
Well, it's leakage rate is
Whatever that
is a good term for it. We're not so much
We
looking,
drop that by 20%, 50%.
Yeah, we rarely show or share or spend a lot of time on what the actual blower door score is. What's more important is to show that we've cut infiltration down, and more importantly, when you cut, and this is sort of the second half of our what we do, is when you cut infiltration down, you change the way the house behaves, and you can change it for the worse. So what we're really showing a homeowner is your heating bills, and we ask for a history of what their heating and gas and electric bills are. Your heating bills are this, and if we do this to it and reduce your infiltration by this much, by 30%, your bills will then be this projected. Well, then we go and actually do it, and we said, well, we've decreased infiltration by 42%, so we've actually done what we said we would do, and your bills then should be this.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest challenge we find with reducing infiltration of air is you get into a backdraft scenario. And the backdraft scenario is where you have a atmospherically vented hot water heater or furnace or boiler, and where your house was naturally drawing makeup air through the walls and all these miscellaneous leaks. There is a point where you can create a perfect storm, and we call it worst case backdraft. Worst case scenario is you've got all of your bath fans on, your oven fan on, your dryer on, and it creates a negative pressure in the house that exceeds a threshold of around 5 pascals, negative 5 pascals. You could actually backdraft your appliances, your hot water heater and your furnace, which is pulling carbon monoxide back into the house, and you could create...
so they're no longer venting out. It's the easiest for that
to just pull right in.
to just come right in.
Exactly. And so we also want to check for that. If we're going to change the performance of your house, we need to know now what does that do to the indoor air quality? Because one of the things that could happen is a backdrafting. Another thing that could happen is in the wintertime, well, now all of our windows have fog on them or moisture on them. And it's because it used to release all the moisture through the walls, naturally ventilating the house, but now we've made the house tighter and it's got nowhere to go. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to improve ventilation. Well, if you get to a certain point where you improve ventilation to a certain amount, you're just exhausting the same amount of air that was naturally going through the walls. And now you go and look at doing installing a piece of equipment called a heat exchange ventilator.
Yeah.
Where you're actually controlling where the ventilation comes out of the house, but the air that comes out, you're capturing the heat out of it and heating the air that comes back in as a makeup. So there's a lot of different components to it, but what is common is the going back to the ice dam scenario. Most of the time, the ice dam solution has always been insulate, and so insulators would come out and throw insulation in the house, and not check to see how does it affect the rest of the house.
Yeah.
And they do this, and then the house starts having moisture on the windows. Windowsills start rotting. Indoor air quality goes down.
Yeah.
Carbon monoxide poisoning happens.
Everybody dies.
Everybody dies.
And they freeze, and
It's
they can't see out their windows. People can't see in because the windows are fogged up. And
and people think the house is abandoned.
Man.
And then people break in, steal the copper.
Don't put insulation in your house. That's what I say. Insulation free. Okay, there's a quick question I want to raise now, and then we can talk about it in the third segment. And that is, Mark is asking, what about a 1-inch layer sprayed on the underside of the roof decking?
Yep, we call that skim
means?
coating.
You know what that means? Okay, so we're going to talk about that here in a minute. Those of you who are following along live, just keep doing so. Those of you on Ustream, you have to go to section number 6 for the answer to that intriguing question. This is the question, Blog Talk Radio Conversation, weekdays from 10 to 11 with Doug Pagitt, and on Wednesdays, Steve Scherber.